Welcome to another book in the Big Questions series. This one is called The Big Questions: What Is and Isn't Bullying? By Ethan Solace. My name is Ethan Solace. I am an interdisciplinary psychologist with a background in child development, trauma, and SEND. Over the years, I have seen how painful bullying can be. But I have also seen how confusing the word can become when every hurt, disagreement, or boundary is given the same name. This book was written with great care. Because bullying is real. It matters. Children should feel safe, heard, and protected. But understanding what bullying is also means understanding what it is not. Sometimes children hurt each other by mistake. Sometimes feelings are real, but the full story is more complicated. Sometimes a group stepping away is not cruelty, but a boundary. And sometimes a pattern of harm needs to be named clearly so it can finally stop. My hope is that this book helps children and adults slow down, look carefully, and talk honestly. Not with blame, but with courage, compassion, and clarity. Now let's begin. A word that hurts, you're a bully. It's a word that lands like a slap, sharp, sudden, final. You hear it in the playground, at home, even online. Sometimes whispered, sometimes shouted, but always heavy. It sticks to you like something wet and cold, even when you don't understand why. Sometimes it's said in anger, other times in fear. And more, it's said too quickly before the whole story's even been heard. But what is bullying, really? Is it a mistake, a moment, a feeling that stings? Or is it something deeper, something done on purpose, again and again, to cause harm? The truth is, not everything that hurts is bullying, and not every bully knows they are one. Sometimes we feel left out, but no one meant to hurt us. Sometimes a group walks away, not to be cruel, but to stay safe. There is pain in both places. But the reason matters. Bullying is not just about feelings. It's about intention and impact. It's about someone using power to cause demonstrable harm. And that's a serious thing, so before we throw the word like a stone, we must understand its weight. Because calling someone a bully when they are not can itself become a form of harm. What makes it bullying? Not all unkindness is bullying. That may sound strange, but it's true. Sometimes people make mistakes. They speak too quickly, act without thinking, or hurt someone without even realizing. But bullying is different. Bullying is when someone means to hurt you and keeps doing it, even when they know it's causing harm. Real bullying has two parts, the intention to harm and the impact it has. If someone is trying to make you feel small, left out, afraid, or ashamed, and they keep doing it, that's bullying. It's not about just being rude or having a bad day. It's about using power to control, to scare, or to wound, whether it's with words, actions, or silence. It's the pattern, not just the pain, that makes it bullying. But sometimes, what feels like bullying may not be. And that's where things get complicated. A person might not realize they've hurt someone. A group might walk away to protect themselves, not to punish. That's why we must look closely, not just at how we feel, but at what happened, why it happened, and how it keeps happening. Because the truth matters. And when we learn to tell the difference, we don't just protect ourselves. We protect each other too. Mean once, or mean always. Sometimes people are unkind. They say something sharp. They laugh when we fall. They look the other way when we need them most, and in those moments, it hurts. But not every unkind act is bullying. Because bullying isn't just about being mean. It's about being mean on purpose, again and again, knowing the pain it causes, and choosing to keep going. There's a difference between a one-time mistake and a pattern of harm. A friend might snap because they're tired. A classmate might leave you out once, not knowing how it made you feel. These things can still cause pain, but they aren't always done with intent. Bullying is targeted. It repeats. It circles back like a storm you can't escape. You begin to expect it, to brace for it, and that is when it begins to shape your world. We must learn to tell the difference, because if we call every hurtful act bullying, we risk missing the real thing. We risk losing the power of that word. It's not about ignoring pain, it's about naming it honestly. Because when we name it right, we can deal with it right. And that's how we begin to heal, by seeing clearly what needs to stop. Mistakes aren't always meanness. Sometimes people say the wrong thing. A joke lands badly. A moment of impatience cuts deeper than it should. A friend forgets something important, and it stings. These moments can hurt, but they don't always come from cruelty. Sometimes they come from confusion, tiredness, fear, or even trying and failing to fit in. We all make mistakes, and we all need space to learn from them. It's easy to label someone as mean when they get something wrong, but kindness also means offering the chance to understand, to reflect, to say sorry, and try again. One mistake does not make someone a bully. What matters is what happens next. Do they notice the hurt they caused? Do they care? Do they stop? These are the questions that show us the difference between a moment of harm and a pattern of intention. We all have the power to cause pain, but we also have the power to repair it. Not every stumble is a fall, and not every mistake means someone meant to be unkind. When we give others the chance to grow, we grow too. Because compassion isn't just something we offer to others, it's something we live by, even when it's hard. The power of perception. Sometimes something happens, and it feels like bullying. A look, a laugh, a choice not to sit beside you. The pain is real, the tightness in your chest, the heat behind your eyes. But feelings, though important, don't always tell the whole story. To understand bullying, we have to look not only at what we felt, but at what really happened. This is called perception, how something seems from your side, but every story has more than one side. Maybe the other person didn't know you were hurt. Maybe their choice wasn't meant to harm, or maybe they were protecting themselves from a hurt you didn't see. This doesn't make your feelings wrong. It means we have to hold both truths in our hands, the impact and the intent. Bullying isn't just about how something feels. It's about what was meant, what was done, and whether the pain continues even after it's seen. That's why we talk. That's why we listen. That's why we check. Because sometimes what we need isn't to punish, but to understand. And when we understand better, we make space for healing, for honesty, and for peace. Rights and responsibilities. You have the right to feel safe, to be heard, to be treated with respect. These are not small things. They are your anchors, and every child deserves them. But there's another part we don't talk about enough. Responsibility, because just as you have the right not to be harmed, you also have the responsibility not to harm others. Sometimes we focus so hard on how we feel that we forget to ask how others feel. We forget that every right we claim sits beside a duty we carry, to listen before we accuse, to pause before we judge, to speak up without shouting someone else down. Even when we're hurting, we still have the power to choose kindness or cruelty. Rights and responsibilities walk hand in hand. One protects you, the other protects everyone. And when they're in balance, something powerful happens. Fairness, understanding, peace. Bullying happens when someone takes their power and forgets their duty. But safety happens when we all remember we are not just responsible for ourselves. We are also responsible for the way we treat the world around us. When exclusion isn't always. What it seems sometimes a child feels left out, and it hurts. A game begins without them. A group walks away. A space they want to belong to stays just out of reach. That pain is real, but pain alone does not mean bullying has taken place. Exclusion is more complex than it first appears, and sometimes it's not an act of harm, but a reaction to harm that's harder to see. There are children who struggle to join in fairly, not because they're cruel, but because they need to lead, to win, to control how things go. They interrupt, rewrite the rules, or demand that things always be done their way. This can happen for many reasons: ADHD, delayed emotional development, anxiety, trauma. But when this need for control upsets the group again and again, the group sometimes steps back. Not to bully, but to breathe. That's not unkindness. That's a boundary, and understanding that difference is vital. Because friendship isn't built on control, it's built on give and take, on listening, sharing, and adapting. Exclusion can be bullying when it's done with the intent to hurt, but often it's simply the result of mismatched needs. And the answer isn't to blame the group, it's to help everyone find a way to meet in the middle. The harm. We don't see sometimes. The person who feels left out isn't the one being hurt, but the one causing hurt in ways they don't yet understand. Some children struggle to share space fairly. They interrupt, demand control, or make others feel small so they can feel big. It's not because they're bad. Often it's because they haven't yet learned how to join in without taking over. That's not bullying, but it can cause harm. Groups aren't just groups. They're made of individuals with feelings too. Children who want to laugh, play, and feel safe. When one person always takes the lead, changes the rules, or makes the games about winning instead of connecting, the others might feel tense, silenced, or unsure. And sometimes they step away, not out of cruelty, but out of need, out of self-protection. That isn't bullying, it's boundary setting. This kind of harm is quiet, but real. It doesn't always look like meanness, but it can leave the group exhausted. The solution isn't to force them back together. It's to understand what's going wrong and gently help it go right. Because sometimes, to truly belong, we must learn how to let others belong too. That's not rejection. It's the first step toward real connection. The harm we don't always name. Not every child who feels excluded is being bullied. Sometimes the group steps away for a reason. A child might keep interrupting, exaggerating stories. "I've got 15 girlfriends," they say, though none are real. Or they may seek attention in ways that unsettle others, invading space, making others uncomfortable, slapping someone's bum to be funny. These things aren't always meant to harm, but they still have an impact. And sometimes walking away is the group's way of coping. This kind of behavior doesn't mean the child is cruel. It may come from ADHD, trauma, anxiety, or delayed maturity, but it can make others feel unsafe or unheard. Some children seek younger friends they can control. Others accuse others of bullying simply for saying no. These patterns often push people away, not because of unkindness, but because of emotional overload. That isn't bullying. It's a sign that support is needed. When the group steps back to protect itself, it isn't always wrong. It can be a healthy boundary, and the solution isn't to force closeness. It's to help the individual understand how to connect without causing harm. Because true belonging isn't about control. It's about learning how to be part of something without needing to take it over. What to do and not do. When someone hurts you again and again, it's hard to know what to do. Should you tell a teacher? Should you walk away? Should you say something back? These are big questions, and the answer isn't always simple. But here's what matters. Bullying should never be ignored, and you should never have to face it alone. If you're being bullied, speak up, kindly, clearly, and safely. Tell an adult. Write it down. Find someone you trust. Bullying loses its power when it's brought into the light. But there's something just as important. Don't use the word bully to win an argument, get your way, or shame someone who simply disagrees with you. When we misuse the word, we make it harder to see when someone is truly being hurt. It's brave to speak. It's brave to listen. It's brave to tell the truth, even when it's messy. The best thing we can do is slow down, check the facts, and respond with care. Sometimes we need protection. Sometimes we need reflection. But always, we need truth. Because when we act from understanding, not anger, we make space for change. And that's how bullying ends. Not with shouting, but with courage, compassion, and clarity. What bullying isn't. It's important to be honest, not just about what bullying is, but about what it isn't. Not every disagreement is bullying. Not every no means someone's trying to hurt you. Sometimes people just don't want to play the same game. Sometimes they want quiet when you want noise. That isn't rejection, it's difference. And learning to accept differences is part of growing strong. Calling someone a bully just because they won't do what you say, or because they step back when things feel too intense, can be unfair. It turns a misunderstanding into a weapon. And when that happens too often, the real meaning of bullying gets lost. It makes it harder to protect the people who are being hurt on purpose. Words have power, so we have to use them wisely. True bullying involves intentional harm done more than once, with no care for how it makes the other person feel. That's serious, but labeling every hurtful moment as bullying isn't the answer either. What we need is balance. Being brave enough to speak up when it's real, and wise enough to reflect when it's not. Because understanding the difference helps everyone feel safer, including you. Finding your way through. If you've ever felt pushed aside, laughed at, or left behind, you're not alone. If you've ever been called something that wasn't true, or watched a friend struggle to fit in, you've seen how hard it can be to find where you belong. These moments can feel confusing, heavy, even unfair. But understanding the truth behind them gives us a way forward. Because not everything that hurts is bullying, and not every child who struggles means harm. Sometimes we walk away to stay safe. Sometimes we reach out because we care. What matters is that we learn to look deeper, not just at what we feel, but at what's really happening, at the patterns, the intentions, the actions that repeat. That's how we learn when to speak up, when to listen, and when to grow. This book isn't just about answers. It's about courage. The courage to tell the truth. The courage to hear it. The courage to be fair, even when things feel hard. Bullying is real, and it needs to stop. But so does the confusion that clouds what it really is. When we know the difference, we can build something better. A kinder world where every child has the chance to feel safe, seen, and strong. Thank you so much for listening to The Big Questions. What is and isn't bullying? By Ethan Solace. This is such an important subject, and I hope this book has helped bring a little more clarity to it. Bullying is real, serious, and harmful, and children deserve to feel safe, heard, and protected. But it is also important to understand that not every painful moment between children is bullying. Sometimes children disagree. Sometimes friendships change. Sometimes someone says no, needs space, sets a boundary, or does not want to be friends. Those moments can still hurt, but they are often part of ordinary social dynamics. And understanding the difference helps everyone respond with more fairness, care, and truth. If this book has been useful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really does help bring this audiobook and the wider Big Questions series to more children, families, parents, carers, teachers, schools, and curious listeners. Thank you for listening. Keep reading, keep thinking, keep asking big questions. And I'll see you in the next book. Copyright 2026, Ethan Solace. All rights reserved. This audiobook and the book it is based on are protected by copyright. No part of this work may be copied, recorded, reproduced, distributed, uploaded, sold, adapted, or used in any form without prior written permission from the author, except for brief excerpts used in reviews, classrooms, or non-commercial educational settings.